Hello everybody, my name is Elena. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. We have a bit of a different background for this video. I wanted to kind of switch it up a little bit. I have not done a wrap-up for October, November, or December. And it is, in fact, January of 2025. So Happy New Year, everyone. But also, I really need to tell you about all the books that I read in October, November, and December. So strap in. We're not going to do too much. We're not going to talk too much about these books because there's a lot of them that I need to talk about. I read 9 books in October and the average rating was a 3.92. So not too bad. Could be worse. I don't know. First book that I read was an absolute disappointment, and it was Broken Bones by Deja Black. This is like an Omegaverse kind of MM sort of romance slash fantasy. It's like urban fantasy, I would say. I hated this. I started off really liking it, and then it just went downhill because it was one of those books where it doesn't tell you anything about the world. Like, there's not really a lot of world building, and I actually liked that about it because I was like, okay, well, I'm supposed to know this. We're here. We're just going straight into the characters. The world, I feel like, didn't really need a lot of explaining, and then it tried to do world building at the end, and it just did not click. So I hated this. I give it 2 stars. I absolutely would not recommend reading this because you are just going to waste your time, and it took me far too long to read considering it's such a small book. Next book I read is The Lies We Tell by Becca Steele. I'm gonna be honest, I don't really remember much about this book. I gave it 3.25 stars, but it was just like kind of fine, you know. The characters started off kind of not liking each other, and that's fine. I remember I liked one character a lot. I don't remember his name, but he was really nice to our female main character, and he was like kind of like her friend, and I really liked him. Again, don't remember his name, so sorry about that. I might continue the series if I ever feel like it. I don't know. I don't know how to explain the book to you. It's supposed to be like a lot of found family in it. I don't know if there actually is. So I can't tell you anything about it. Maybe search up the summary by yourself, because clearly I can't tell you anything about this book. And then we hit an all-time high because I was in a reading slump and I was like, I need something to get me out of it. So I decided to read the entirety of the Twilight series by Stephenie Meyer. So obviously I started off with Twilight. I absolutely adore this book. I give it 4.75 stars, and I will stand my ground on that because I think this is really well done. I really liked the relationship between Bella and Edward. Obviously I've seen the movies, but in the movies, Edward was kind of creepy. He's not creepy here, I feel like. I just thought the book was silly, goofy, really fun. It did have a little bit of a slow start, so that's why I docked off a couple points. That's why it's not 5 stars, but I absolutely adore this book, and I can see myself absolutely rereading it. I mean, obviously, I bought the physical copy afterwards and added all my annotations in. So I do think I'll be rereading this at some point. And then I read New Moon, and that one I knew I wasn't really gonna like because it's my least favorite movie, but also I'm just not a fan of Jacob, and he's really present in that book. I gave it 3.5 stars. It wasn't the worst thing. I mean, when Edward shows up again, it gets really good, so that's why it bumped up the rating. It was gonna be like a 3-star, and now it's a 3.5, so there was good in it. It's not my favorite, and actually it's my least favorite in the series. And then I read Eclipse. I was really excited about this one because it is my favorite movie, and I gave it 4.5 stars. It's not my favorite book out of the series. And also I rewatched the movies afterwards, and I don't even think it's my favorite movie of the series either. But I really enjoyed the book. I thought it was fun. I don't really know what else to say here. I don't know, it was good. And then I read Breaking Dawn. And I was really scared about this one because I knew that a big chunk of this book was from Jacob's point of view because my friend had told me that it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. However, it also was not very good. I still kind of hate him, to be completely honest with you, just because of some of the things that he says I just can't get behind. But like, he's fine. I'm fine with him now as a character. I don't know. I gave it 4.25 stars. I thought it was a little long. But I did enjoy it, and it was fun. And then I read Midnight Sun, and you might be wondering, Elena, why do you have just Twilight and Midnight Sun? Because it is my favorite plot and my favorite book. Okay, this is basically Twilight told from Edward's perspective. That's why it's so freaking big. I did read this and I loved it, and I gave it 4.5 stars. However, I did like it more than Eclipse. I just love the insight that we got for the Cullens, and I liked seeing Bella from Edward's point of view because when you see her from her point of view, she thinks she's ditzy and not smart and really ordinary and stuff like that, and he notices all the little things that make her so lovable. And I will say, I love Bella as a main character, and you can fight me on that if you want. However, you will lose because I'm standing my ground. I love her as a character, and I think she gets a lot of shit for kind of no reason. Like, I understand that she makes some mistakes throughout the series and acts a certain way throughout the series, but like, I don't know, I really liked her. I liked reading from her point of view. And then I read Never Have I Ever by Stephanie Alves. This was just like a really fun, easy read. I think I read it in a day. I can't really remember what it's about except that it's good girl, bad boy, and I really liked it in the beginning. Like, it was really good. And then the conflict was thrown in there just so there could be a conflict. Obviously, I didn't like that. I don't know if I'm going to continue reading the series, but I gave this one 3.5 stars. It was fun. It was easy. If you want like a light read that's a little smutty, you can go ahead and read it. It was fun. It was fine. And then I hit the jackpot because this next book that I'm going to talk about is my favorite book of 2024, and that is Bloom by E.J. Blaze. Sadly, I do not have a physical copy of it. I will try and get my hands on one. I don't know how I'm gonna do that, but I will try. I absolutely adore this book. If you ask me what my favorite romance book is and you want one book, like not a series, just like one book, it would be this one, and I will say that with my whole chest. I think the reason why I loved it so much is because it's a spin on one of my favorite tropes, which is Grumpy Sunshine, but it's kind of shy, grumpy dynamic. The girl is really shy, her name's Caroline, and the guy's really grumpy, and his name is Hunter. And the dynamic between them is so fucking wholesome, and I absolutely adore them. Hunter is, like, if I had to pick one book boyfriend to actually date in real life, like, if you could materialize a book boyfriend in front of me and then I had to date him for the rest of my life, it would be Hunter Whitlock. I really, really love this book. I just saw myself in Caroline a lot, not in all aspects, obviously, that's just unrealistic. But I saw myself in her a lot, and I don't usually find a lot of my own traits in books. And I've always wondered that, like, why can't I find, like, a book character that I really relate to in the way that they act or what their favorite things are and stuff like that. And she just got me, you know? Like, she understands. Small town romance. It's very emotional, so I would say check the trigger warnings because she does have an alcoholic father and he is abusive. So there's topics of that throughout the book. And while Caroline is like really sunshine and this florist and it seems like everyone loves her, she kind of feels like she's sticking out like a sore thumb a little bit. And she meets Hunter Whitlock through a friend of a friend, I think, and they just kind of hit it off. And it's a really fun book. It's slow burn, and I say fun, I mean it was fun to read, not that the concept or what was happening in the book was actually fun, because I remember crying a lot throughout it, but I absolutely adore it, and I will be rereading it pretty soon, I feel like. For November, I also read 9 books, but the rating is upped because the average rating is a 4.27. The reason for that is because I reread a lot of books in November. But the first book that I read is a new book, and it was Play Along by Liz Tom-Forty. I'm so happy that I finally read this. They had 1 copy at my bookstore, and I bagged this bitch. And she hasn't been at the bookstore since, so I'm happy that I own it. I absolutely loved this. I was a little apprehensive about reading it because I don't like accidental marriages type of plot, which is what this book is because they get married in Vegas. However, I absolutely loved this. Isaiah is an acts of service king, and I'm pretty sure he took lessons from Ryan Shea, who is the main character of the second book called The Right Move. I really liked this. I like where the series is going. I've read all the books that have come out so far, and I've absolutely loved all of them. So as soon as Rio's book comes out, I don't remember when it comes out. Is it May, I think? I think I'm gonna absolutely devour it, and this will be one of my favorite interconnected standalone series because I absolutely adore the characters. I liked the plot. It did make me cry, made me emotional, and this one is, the girl is a bit more closed off, and the guy is very golden retriever, and she kind of has trust issues and whatever. So it's a spin on the usual kind of dynamic that you see between characters, I feel like, and I absolutely loved this, and I give it 4.75 stars. And then I read a really random book because my friend, who's also on here, I will link her channel down below, Clara, read this, and I was like, she was telling me about it, and I was like, I need to read it. It's called When You Give a Lawyer a Kiss by Anne Anderson. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. I'm really sorry. The concept of this was so fun because the book starts off with her going on a date, and it's going horribly. He keeps mentioning his mom. He's like, we should invite her on our next date. And she's like, okay, I'm out of here. So she starts bolting because he starts following her when she tries to leave. And she enters this little tattoo shop. And she's like, hey, I really just need to hide from this guy. And they kind of hit it off from there. And then it turns out it's a workplace romance because she's supposed to work at his firm because he's a lawyer and he owns this firm. And she's supposed to work there. And then they see each other, like, I think it's like a couple years later than when they meet at the workplace or whatever. I thought this was fun. The thing that really pissed me off about it is that the characters kept calling each other by their last names far too much. That's one of my pet peeves. Like, I hate when characters just call each other by their last names so much. Like, I understand when it's tastefully done, when it's like a little bit of it. This was not a little bit of it. It really pissed me off by the end. Kind of like a palate cleanser read. I give it 3.25 stars. I feel like go for it if you just want like something light and not very serious. And then I read one of the worst books that I have read all year. And it's called Unholy Tsar by Sasha Leone. And I've read a book by her before. I don't remember what it's called. But it was a mafia romance and it was the first book. And I actually liked it. I gave it 4 stars. I thought it was a really fun book. So I had really high hopes with this one. When I tell you, not a single sentence made sense in this book. Things were going on. I couldn't piece the puzzle together. I was like, why is this going on? And then something would happen, but it wouldn't make sense with what was said before. So if she was like tied up, the next second she was like walking around and I'm like, what do you mean you're walking around? Weren't you supposed to be tied up? That's not like an actual thing. Or maybe it was. I don't know. Truthfully, with everything that happened in this book, I can't keep track. But that was just like an example. Nothing made sense in this book. Everything pissed me off about it. Clara will tell you because I was reading it while she was next to me. I absolutely hated this book and I do not recommend reading it. However, I do recommend reading the other book. Again, I don't remember what it's called, but I'll put a little picture of it here. This one I recommend. I really liked this one. And then I started my reread of The Dark Verse. I think I talked about it in one of my vlogs. So I reread The Predator. Gave this one the same rating, 4.75 stars. I absolutely love this series. Tristan and Marana are my favorite couples in the series, so it's no surprise that I'm giving their books a high rating. And speaking of, I then read The Reaper, but I listened to the audiobook, and I give it 5 stars just like I did every other time, and I absolutely loved it still. I love the writing, I love the couple. And then I read The Emperor, again on audiobook. All the other books I read on audiobook besides the last one. The Emperor, I was really excited about when I first read it, and I thought that I would love it this time around rereading it because I didn't love it the first time that I read it. It's still fine. I gave it 3.5 stars. Like, it's fine, but it's just like I was expecting so much more and I felt like it was a bit too long. And then I reread The Finisher and I was really excited about this one because I loved this book when I first read it and I still do. I still love it now. I give it 4.5 stars. I think it's a really fun book and a really fun spin on the amnesia trope, which I usually hate in books. I actually really liked it in this one. And then I read The Annihilator, and I was dreading listening to this one because I hated it when I first read it. Actually, pleasantly surprised that I actually liked it this time around. I give it 3.25 stars. It gave me conflicted feelings. Okay. It gave me conflicted feelings because I don't know if I love it or if I don't love it or if I think it's toxic or if I don't think it's toxic. So I've just settled on giving it a 3.25 stars and saying that I enjoyed it. But I don't know if it's actually like good, you know, but I enjoyed it. And then I read the new release, which is The Syndicator. Came out last year and I wanted to read it by the end because it was one of my most anticipated reads of the year and I did really like it. I know a lot of people didn't. I'm here to say that I did. I gave it 4.75 stars, but I completely understand why some people didn't like it. I was just really happy to be back with the characters and in the world. I felt like we could have resolved the whole mystery a bit longer and I feel like it could have been resolved better considering it was dragged out throughout all the books. But I still really enjoyed it and I loved the characters and I love the reunion that happens, which I won't mention who it's between because that would spoil all the other books. But I loved the reunion. I was hoping it wouldn't disappoint me and it didn't because I absolutely adored it and I was, in fact, bawling my eyes out. And then to end off November, I read Ice Planet Barbarians by Ruby Dixon. And I actually really enjoyed this. I knew what I was getting into when I read it. I mean, it's alien smut. Like, you know what you're getting into when you pick the book up. It was silly goofy. It was fun. I enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. I knew what I was getting into. I didn't expect anything special from the book and I had a fun time. I mean, the book is really fun. It's really funny. And I don't know if I'm going to continue reading the series, maybe if I'm in that mood again, but I don't think I should ever force myself to read these books because then I feel like I won't like them. That's all I read in November. And in December, and you're like, Elena, weren't you in a reading slump? Why have you read so many books? I was in a reading slump, okay? And I still kind of am. But I just mostly read manga and reread books. And that's why there's so many books that I've read in December, because there was a whopping 18 books, okay? But again, I was rereading most of them. And a lot of them are just Naruto volumes. And the average rating was a 4.44. But again, I was rereading books, so it's not really that impressive. Firstly, I read Naruto. Like I said, I read a lot of Naruto volumes. I read volume 14 to volume 22, and I decided to take a little bit of a break from it for now because volume 22 pissed me off. I just really didn't like it. I felt like the story wasn't flowing very well, but I'm still really enjoying the series, and I will continue to read it. I'm just taking a little bit of a break from it right now. And then I decided to reread Bride by Ali Hazelwood because it was my friends and I's book club pick, and I listened to it on audiobook because the first time that I read it as an ebook, and then when I got the physical copy, I added all my annotations in. A lot of people said that the audiobook is really good, so I decided to listen to it. I think I preferred reading it. Like, the audiobook isn't bad, but I was just expecting so much from it because a lot of people were like, oh, the audiobook is so good. It's good. I feel like it's better if you just read it by yourself, but you do with that what you will. I still really enjoyed this, and I give it 4.5 stars. And then on my Ali Hazelwood kick, I decided to also listen to Not in Love by Ali Hazelwood. And I thought I would enjoy this. I didn't think that I would adore it because I gave this 5 stars. It's one of my favorite Ali Hazelwood books because the only other book that I've given 5 stars from her is Love Theoretically, and that one remains my favorite. But this one, I did not stop thinking of the characters since I read it for like a week straight after I read this book. I couldn't stop thinking about the characters, and I know a lot of people really don't like Rue in this book. I really like her. She's one of my favorite female main characters that I read about this year. I felt like she was really raw. I felt like the relationship made sense, and it is one of her most spiciest books, but it's not spicy in the way that like smut is just thrown in there just to be there. Like, there's a purpose for it being there. And I really liked the relationship. It was something that I haven't seen a lot in the books that I read, because most relationships in books are kind of idealized, I feel like, which is perfectly fine. Like, that's why you read books, right? This one felt realistic to some extent. So I really enjoyed it, and I gave it 5 stars. Originally, I gave it 4.75 stars, but like I said, I couldn't stop thinking about it. So 5 stars for this baby right here. Mwah. And then on my audiobook kick, everyone was talking about this one book that's a dark romance that apparently had like a really good audiobook. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna listen to it. And it's Lights Out by Navessa Allen. They were not lying. The audiobook is really fun. It's a dark romance, but it's like written as a rom-com. And I really liked the characters. I really liked the plot. I thought it was maybe a little bit long. But I still really enjoyed it, and I thought it was really fun. I don't think I love it as much as other people do, but I do really like it, and I would recommend it, and I'm definitely going to continue reading the other books when they come out. Oh, I forgot to put that one on my most anticipated releases. Whatever. The next book is coming out 2025. I don't know when, but it is. I gave Lights Out 4 stars. And then I read another anticipated release of mine. It's a series called the Black Hawk Security series by Juliet N. Banks. I read the other 2 books previously in the year, and then this one came out called The Marine, and I was really excited about it. They're just really easy. All of them are bodyguard romances. They're really easy to read. They're smutty. It's nothing special, but like they're all good. I was expecting more from this one, not gonna lie. I gave it 3 stars, which means like I still liked it, but it really wasn't anything special. And the first book, called The Seal, I think, remains my favorite. I thought that was the end of the series. Apparently there's like 2 or 3 more books coming out. I don't know if I'm gonna read them. I guess it just depends on my mood when they come out. And this is when I started rereading like crazy, because I realized I was in a reading slump, and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to do what I want to do and just reread all my favorite books. So I started off by rereading Alphas Like Us by Kristen Beccarici. I'm not going to bore you with what this book is about, what this series is about. You've already heard me talk about it so many times. This is the only other book that I own physically from the series that I hadn't annotated, so I read it physically. Absolutely adored it, still gave it 5 stars. And then I just continued rereading all the other books besides Tangled, and Sinful Like Us. So I then read Headstrong Like Us, which is another Maximoff and Farrell book. It's the only one that I hadn't reread. And actually, it's my second favorite Marrow book. And I gave it 5 stars. I gave it that the first time that I read it, but I didn't think it would be one of my favorites, and it is. I then listened to the audiobook of Charming Like Us. I really enjoyed it. I actually think I upped the rating from the last time that I read it because I think I enjoyed it so much more this time around. I gave it 4.25 stars. I think the first time that I read it, I gave it 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. There's a lot of Charlie in this book because of the bodyguard. I don't know, it's good. It's not one of my favorites in the series, but it is still really good. And then I read Wild Like Us, which is the first book from Silly's perspective. I know a lot of people don't like Silly's books. I absolutely adore them. So, like, I have no complaints. I really liked this book, and I actually rated it higher than what I did the first time that I read it. The first time I read it, I gave it 4.25 stars, and this time around, I'm giving it 4.5 stars. So that was really good, and that was the last book that I actually read in December. I did continue reading all the other books in the series, and by all the other books, I mean the next Sully book, and I did finish that one yesterday. But it is technically finished in January, so we won't be talking about it here. You can wait for the January wrap-up for that one. But that's really all the books that I needed to talk about. Hopefully the video is not too long. I tried to be pretty quick because we had a lot of books to get through. Okay, so I mean, I guess that's the end of this video. I don't really have anything else to say besides thank you so much for watching. You can like, comment, subscribe if you'd like, and I will see you in my next video. Bye-bye.